Good morning. It's Wednesday, November 19th. I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures. Yesterday was a great day to get an account open with Blue Line Futures and position in these precious metals. So overnight, the precious metals, they are surging, and many of you added gold futures and silver call spreads yesterday while support levels held. So looking at the gold market, up about 55% this year, pulling back just slightly yesterday, but sitting at 41.14 last, up $48. That's 1.18%. You have silver futures up about 2.8% at 51.94 on December. Many of you positioned for the February contract and the March contract. So the key levels on the gold market here are yesterday's overnight lows, 39.97.40, where a lot of dip buyers emerge with that drop below the 4,000 mark. Then you look at the 50-day moving average at 39.81.70, and then your trend support, that's a key level, 39.50.20. So many of you are adding the March call spreads while risking about $2,250 for a $10 wide call spread on the 5,000 ounce contract, which could nearly pay out 20x. Now looking at the equities front, it's NVIDIA earnings day, and the AI bulls are open for some strong numbers. Will provide some relief from the equity sell-off that we've seen. So you look at overnight, many of the U.S. equity markets are significantly higher, with the NASDAQ up about 0.4% or 96 points. Now you look at stock futures, they are steady right now, but bracing for some big moves later. So the chip maker alone has accounted for almost 25 or 20% of the S&P 500 gains this year. You do have the FOMC minutes, and a batch of retail earnings are also due. So all focus is on NVIDIA, and the big question is how the market is going to interpret these numbers. So JP Morgan strategists see room for higher on a beat and rise here and recommend some bullish call spreads. And then Barclays strategists note that the stock has posted negative 1 week returns following 4 of the last 5 earnings seasons. So the option markets, that's what I really look at here, implies a 7% swing in either direction post earnings. Now, looking at the earnings as a whole, out of the 463 S&P 500 companies that have reported, 81% have managed to beat the forecast, 15 have missed. Now, as far as economic data, we'll have trade balance data for August, followed by the FOMC minutes here at about 2 p.m. And then you'll have Fed Mirren, Barkin, and then also Williams are also scheduled to speak. Many of the Fed speakers here have been quite hawkish recently because of the fact that of the government shutdown. You got that lack of data that's been coming out here. So they don't have a lot of clarity as far as inflation. Now we look across the pond at what had been coming out, and you look at UK inflation, it fell for the first time in 7 months. Excuse me, and I do believe that that's an indicator of what we'll see in the United States going forward, and that's where you get the declining inflation, increased Fed cuts, and that could be a tailwind here for not only U.S. markets, but also some of the precious metals as well. You look at the CME's Fed Watch tool for that December 10th meeting, markets see about a 46.6% probability that the Fed will cut rates by 25 basis points. You go out to the January meeting, it's about a 50% chance they cut 25 basis points and about an 18% chance they cut 50 basis points. So although the timing is uncertain, the direction of interest rates remains clear. Now looking at your FX rundown, you got the dollar index at 99.66. So the correlation is about a 50% inverse correlation to the gold market right now. So we will want to see that dollar index back off a bit here in order to give a further boost on the gold market here, but we are seeing a lot of weakness in the FX currencies. You do have the 10-year treasury yield sitting at about 4.11%. So that has been in a tight range recently, but bouncing off of this resistance and coming back down. I told you before that looking at things like the 10-year treasuries on the long side, playing that decline back on the treasury yields, I think is a wise move to make. Now looking at the VIX futures here. So it is the last trading day for the November VIX futures, which sits at 2380, but you look at December 2161, and the VIX had peaked at about 25 here yesterday before backing off significantly. You got Bitcoin hovering right around that 91,500, getting back down to 90,000, which is that 7-month low. In other assets here, looking at Bitcoin again, continuing to slide. Investors pulled about $500 million from BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust yesterday. That was the single largest daily outflow since the fund's debut. Where did that money go? Looks like some of the precious metals markets. So Bitcoin's fallen about 30% from record highs in October. So you go over to Europe and Asia, you got European stocks edging higher, you got Asian stocks falling, heading for 4 straight days of losses, and then the MSCI Asia Pacific Index declined about 0.5%. You look at the ETF flows, well, they were selling a bit of gold here. They only cut about 23,000 ounces. Third straight day of declines, and the sales were worth about $97.3 million at yesterday's spot prices here. And total gold held by ETFs has risen about 17% this year. Now you look at the silver market, total silver held by ETFs rose about 15% this year, and the ETFs added about 262,000 troy ounces, sixth straight day of growth. So they reversed that sell-off that they were having, and now they're just piling into the silver market with the longest winning streak since July 28th as far as ETF flows. The gold-silver ratio back below 80 to 1 at 79 to 1. So you guys got any questions? Going to be a very busy day here with these movements, not only in the U.S. equities, with NVIDIA, with the precious metals pushing higher here, with cryptocurrencies hovering near those lows. We got a little bit of pressure on the agricultural market after China. They did resume some buying here on soybeans, but it doesn't look like it's what the market was looking for. So you guys got any questions? You want to open up an account with Blue Line Futures? You want to get some of these silver call spreads on? We'll be continuing to look at those and looking farther out, March and July and things like that. Shoot an email to info@bluelinefutures.com. And remember that futures and option trading does involve risk of loss. May not be suitable to all investors. Good luck, good trading.